On behalf of the entire senior staff around you, Mr. President, we thank you for the opportunity and the blessing that you've given us to serve your agenda and the American people, and we're continuing to work very hard every day to accomplish those goals.
That was an embarrassing time. All around the cabinet, they did those sort of benedictions anyway, or genuflections. That was the over-the-top praise. It wasn't enough for the president's chief of staff, however, to keep his job. He was fired on July 28th. Priebus was a major target of the newly installed communications director, Anthony Scaramucci, alias the Mooch, who boasted about not reporting to Priebus, but rather to the president directly. Well, Scaramucci began his tenure with a similarly over-the-top love song to the president. Let's watch.
I think we're doing an amazing job. The president himself is always going to be the president. I think he's got some of the best political instincts in the world and perhaps in history. The president's phenomenal with the press, okay? And he's a great communicator. He is a unbelievable politician. The president's a winner. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a lot of winning. The president has really good karma, okay, and the world turns back to him. He's genuinely a wonderful human being. He's the most competitive person I've ever met. Okay, I've seen this guy throw a dead spiral through a tire. He sinks 3-foot putts. But I love the president, and I'm very, very loyal to the president, and I love the mission that the president has. I love the president, and I think a lot of you guys know in the media I've been very, very loyal to him. But here's what I will tell you, okay? I love the president. And the president is a very, very effective communicator.
Jimmy, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. How many times do you have to say, I love the guy? Anyway, his spectacular downfall, the Mooches, came with this phone call to the New Yorker's Ryan Lizza.
Bryant is a paranoid schizophrenic, paranoiac. And what he's going to do is, oh, maybe Bill Shine's coming in. Let me leak the thing and see if I can block these people the way I blocked Scaramucci for 6 months. Okay, but he leaked the CFIUS stuff on me. You know, my financial disclosure's been leaked to Politico.
Yes.
Which is a felony.
Well, that call was made public on July 27th. He was fired 4 days later. And he later joked, the Mooch did, about this with Stephen Colbert.
When you take a job like that, Stephen, you know that your expiration date is coming. I didn't think I was going to last too long, but I thought I'd last longer than like a carton of milk.
Well, you can't beat the guy for metaphors.
I mean, the one thing you can say about this presidency is the line between politics and entertainment are completely blurred.
Doesn't it belong on Steve Colbert?
And that's
there's no difference between Steve Colbert's coverage. It's almost like he's a news show now.
Here's the thing about Scaramucci. He was brought in to take out Priebus, okay? That was where the animus was. He came in, he did his job. And yes, I think Kushner and the people who brought him in did think he would last a little bit longer, and he lit himself on fire by calling Ryan Lizza and going off like a volcano.
Doesn't that tell you so much about how this White House functions, though? Right. Because prior to that call with Ryan, he went on TV and ripped Reince, and the news reports at the time that the president actually liked it. So it tells you, like you said, the blurring of that line. He likes the reality show. He likes this display, which all of us take it in and say, ooh, that's dysfunction. He likes it. He likes the drama and the reality show aspect to it.
Didn't like that Reince didn't fight back. I mean, there was this perception that Reince was kind of feckless, running from meetings, scampering around the West Wing, never really in control, and he didn't fight back. When Mooch torched him on TV, Reince didn't say anything. It's not Reince's style. Mooch was much more in the president's personal style.
Well, I started the show by saying Lord of the Flies because we've read that book about these kids stuck on a desert island somewhere where it's all about this kind of who's the king of the hill, who's going to beat who up, who's got the conch, who's got literally who's got the voice.
Right. Well, you know, kill the pig, smash his head, right? Yeah. And who's the pig? The pig is whoever Trump is not happy with in that particular week. And what was interesting also that you heard about, you know, with the interview with Mooch is he's saying, look, Reince has been blocking me for a long time. So it seems like he was waiting to get into this administration and felt like it was traditional Republicans that were keeping him out. But again, they still didn't vet him. He was still getting rid of old tweets.
I want some psychobabble, Jason. I want psychobabble for you. Okay. Why can't the president fire Reince? Why did he need the Mooch to do it?
Because he's a coward.
Okay, last but not least, alt-right firebrand Steve Bannon. Well, Bannon's tenure was rocky. He seemed to float in and out of flavor with the president, or flavor, and he landed on the cover of Time magazine, always a mistake. Presidents don't like being upstaged by their peeps. Anyway, Trump dismissed him as an insignificant factor in his campaign and presidency. Watch him erase the guy from his history.
I like Mr. Bannon. He's a friend of mine. But Mr. Bannon came on very late. You know that. I went through 17 senators, governors, and I won all the primaries. Mr. Bannon came on very much later than that, and I like him. He's a good man. He is not a racist, I can tell you that. He's a good person.
Well, the word "but" sort of introduced the truth there. Anyway, in an interview with the Wall Street Journal, he called Bannon a guy who works for me. Bannon clashed with the people he reportedly called the globalists in the White House. That included, of course, the president's daughter and son-in-law, the couple that Bannon calls Javanka behind their backs. He was fired August 28th. That day, Bannon said he was heading back to Breitbart, and he told the Weekly Standard, the Trump presidency that we fought for and won is over. We still have a huge movement, and we will make something of this Trump presidency. But that presidency is over. It'll be something else. You know, Eli, how does a guy who's the ultimate nationalist go to the Weekly Standard, which is globalist and neocon, and say, this is my departure speech? I just thought the whole thing was weird.
Or the American Prospect a couple days earlier, a Democratic magazine. I mean,
why was he going to the enemy press to make his goodbye report?
Well, I think he was bored. He was sitting in the White House while everybody else was up in Bedminster. He knew he'd been left behind and his days were numbered. And I don't know if it was sort of strategic or cabin fever, but he felt the need to reach out and sort of push his narrative.
Brilliant
and
PR.
It was a conflicting narrative in a lot of ways.
Because he got a lot of ink out of those interviews.
But the interesting thing about Steve Bannon, you know, there will be perhaps over the next several months some tension between the nationalist base that Bannon represents, sort of keeping an eye on this White House that Steve Bannon says now you look up and you see generals, you see Democrats in charge. But one of Steve Bannon's goals was the destruction of the administrative state. And I'll say, you know, in sort of looking at all of this palace intrigue and all of these firings and all the fact that Scaramucci and Reince Priebus are household names across America, people know about who's in and who's out of the president's favor at the White House. And that has been an effective smokescreen for what this administration has done in terms of the administrative state, in terms of what's going on at a lot of these government agencies.
There's no
the
State
EPA,
Department.
HUD, the State Department. There's not been enough focus on those things because everybody is watching the reality drama at 1600.
Nationalism says no more stupid wars. That's sort of the Bannon doctrine. A day after he's going, or the day he left, the president comes out and escalates the battle in Afghanistan.
Well, I mean, that's
So
one of the
what was it? Did he
results
wait
of
for-
surrounding yourself with generals and having Kelly come in and be your new chief of staff. So it's a logical outcome. And we've seen previous presidents who've wanted to extract themselves, Obama, and gotten further enmeshed. And so I think it's just a logical result and something that we could have expected going into this.
Well, they blame the generals, Jason, but I think the question that goes into the Situation Room from the president is always, how do I lose a war and still look good?
Right, right.
And the answer is you can't.
You can't. Look, everybody has been increasing the troops in Afghanistan. We're probably not going to be able to figure out a way to get out of that. And that's the kind of thing that Trump ran on. He ran on.
Would Bernie take us out of Afghanistan?
Bernie would say he was going to.
Would he do it?
In the exact same situation. He wouldn't pull us out.
I use it as an extreme case because he was so doctrinally against this war.
Exactly.
And I wonder if even he could face the generals down and say, okay, I'm going to take the loss in the next election. They can blame me for losing Afghanistan. We never really had it. I'm not kidding myself. Anyway, up next, the White House turmoil has been a boon to the late-night comics. We're going to take a look at their greatest hits, which are all at the expense of Trump, obviously.